Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Steve from UCAN English Tutoring, one of the pioneer institutions that has been specialized in providing courses on OET, IELTS, and PTE academic examinations. In this video, I'm going to provide an overview of the writing subtest of the OET examination, what would be its assessment criteria, and how the question paper is going to look like, and what would be the way we need to answer the question as well. Let's start straight away. So as far as the writing subtest of the OET examination is concerned, it is going to be the specific question to the occupation. I mean, if you are a nurse, you are going to act as a nurse who is going to write down a letter to someone else. All right, so it is going to be specific to your profession. All right, that is one of the good things which can set OET apart from the remaining two examinations as far as the flexibility and comfort are concerned, because many people find OET examination as the most comfortable examination among these three, and it is the reason why they are able to score well in the writing subtest as well when compared to that of the PTE or IELTS examinations. So usually the writing task is going to be held based on a typical workplace situation. Okay, so it's going to be the one where you receive the case notes of a patient and you need to write down a letter to someone else. Okay, so you are going to write down this OET letter in 45 minutes. Okay, so they are going to give you only 45 minutes and you have to complete this task. It doesn't matter, they don't care whether you are able to finish it in 45 minutes or not. They don't care. They will take the question paper as well as the answer sheet from you after 45 minutes. Okay, you need to remember one thing, that the first 5 minutes will be solely dedicated for reading the case notes, and you won't be able to underline using a pencil on the question paper, or you can't mark anything as well. You can't put a tick mark or a cross mark on the writing question paper in the first 5 minutes. It's only for reading the case notes. Is that clear with everyone?
Yes.
After that, you will have 40 minutes to write down the letter. So you have got 5 minutes reading time to read the case notes only, and then 40 minutes to actually write down the letter. So there are two different timelines that are available within this 45 minutes itself. So 45 minutes is the overall time limit for completing a letter. However, this time is split into two different sections. One is the first 5 minutes where you will be reading the case notes of a patient, and then you will have 40 minutes to write down the actual letter. So the writing subtest has the following structure. So the task is to write a letter, usually a referral letter. So one of the typical letters that you will get during the examination would be a referral letter. You need to refer the patient to someone else, okay, which could be a healthcare professional, perhaps, okay. But sometimes you do get a wide variety of letters as well. For example, you may be able to get the transfer letter or discharge letter or the information letter, or could be a request letter and so on, okay. So we have got in total 5 different kinds of letters: referral, discharge, request, information, and transfer. Okay, so we got 5 different letters that you may get. All right, and you have to practice a wide variety of letters before you appear in the examination, because you need to be exposed to a wide variety of settings as well as to a wide variety of recipients as well. Then only you will be able to feel more confident, before you can sit the actual OET writing subtest. Is that clear with everyone?
Yes.
So the recipient of the letter is usually one person. However, sometimes it could be more than one as well. All right, so it could be another healthcare professional such as a doctor, a pharmacist, a dentist. It could be anyone who is going to look after the patient, or a carer, or the patient's relative or family member, and so on as well. Sometimes it could be the group as well, because if you work as a school nurse, okay, and if there is a breakout of something, all right, maybe let's say there is a COVID-19, issue. Okay, so in the school, and as a nurse, you need to write down the letter to inform all the parents and their children regarding the outbreak of the COVID-19 infection as well. So it's going to be sometimes to a group as well. So it depends on the situation. So you need to be intelligent enough to sense the purpose of the letter as well as the type of the recipient, and accordingly you have to tune your letter to suit the requirements. Okay, so along with the task instructions, you will also receive stimulus material, that is what we call the case notes and other related documentation, which includes information to use in your response. So they will provide you all the information that is critical for you to write down a letter to the recipient. Okay, all right, recipient or addressee is the one who is going to receive the letter and possibly continue providing the care. All right, so it is just like handover of your duties to someone else who is going to continue providing the care for the patient. Does anyone have any questions here so far? I hope everyone understands this, and we will go through this writing subtest in detail now. Well, each subtest in the OET examination has got its own criteria. I mean, there are some do's and don'ts in writing, and you need to know them, please. And you have to follow them as well in order to ensure that your score is optimized to reflect your real potential. Okay, you may have really good potential, but the way you are writing down doesn't reflect at all sometimes. Okay, so it's really important that you understand what are the do's and what are the don'ts to be followed while writing down a letter to your recipient. Okay, so let's go through the do's first. What do we need to do first? See, we need to understand one thing, that we have to read the task requirements. Okay, we need to understand what kinds of required services need to be provided by the recipient. Okay, so what kinds of services do we need to request the recipient to provide to the patient? Okay, that is really important. So you have to read, you have to understand the task requirements, possibly in your first language as well. That is also good enough, because that can help you out to ensure that you are going to get really good marks under the overall task fulfillment. Where do I find this? You may ask me a question, isn't it? Well, usually this writing task, there is a section called the writing task in the bottom of the case note. So once you go through the question paper, you should be able to identify that. And that is going to tell you more information regarding the things that you have to include in your letter. Is this clear with everyone?
Yes.
So this is going to be the first thing we need to fulfill. I mean, writing down, the purpose, in other words, in the letter accurately, so that the recipient should be able to follow you and provide the appropriate care to the patient once the handover finishes. Is that clear with you?
Yes.
As a registered nurse, you have a moral responsibility that the patient should receive the best care from the recipients as well once your care finishes with them. Okay, right. What would be the second thing? You need to use your own words to paraphrase or summarize longer pieces of information from the case notes. This is very, very critical. Remember that you should not copy and paste the words from the case notes. Why? There are two reasons, okay, why you should not copy the words from the question paper to your letter. One is, sometimes the words may have incorrect spelling in the OET writing question paper, and you need to expect this, please. All right, that's the first thing. So what's going to happen if you copy and paste the incorrect words? You will be penalized, all right, unfortunately, under vocabulary. That's not good. That's the first thing, okay? And the second reason is that if you do copy the same words from the question paper and place them in the letter, the examiner feels that you may not have enough lexical resources to express information. Lexical resources are known as vocabulary, which means if you can use a wide variety of synonyms, okay, by rephrasing them, it is going to give a positive impression regarding your writing. However, if you simply copy and paste, that's not going to help you at all. That is going to have a negative impression in the reader's mind, and it will be reflected, unfortunately, on your score as well. And that's not good, isn't it? So how can we avoid this? What can I do, for paraphrasing, the information? One of the best ways is to think about the words in a different form. Let's say there is a word called motivate, okay? Motivate the patient to do something, blah, 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 okay? So in that case, motivate could be a keyword. You need to try to think about two different ways. One is you have to say whether there are any other word forms which can convey the same information. Let's say motivate can be replaced with the motivation. Am I right? And they are two different things. Well, motivate is a verb. However, motivation is a noun. And you are not doing, a hard job here, isn't it? You already know. And you are just trying to think about different forms of the same word. And it is so easy for us, isn't it? I mean, writing down motivation shouldn't require much efforts. Am I clear with everyone? Because motivate is already there. You just think about different forms. Motivate is a verb. Let me think about its different forms, such as its adjective, adverbs, nouns, and verb plus ing. For example, even if you use verb plus ing, let's say motivating Mr. John to carry out physical activities is beneficial. That is much better, okay? And you are going to impress the examiner like anything. Wow. The examiner feels like, okay, this candidate has got really good potential, to use a wide variety of sentence structures as well as the synonyms, okay? That's how they're going to, feel, okay? If you can make a positive impression right from your introduction itself, you are going to smash the OET writing like anything, I can guarantee you, all right? And the second thing is you need to summarize, okay? Summarize as well. So I'm sorry about this one. I have to, talk about the paraphrasing. There is one more thing that I have left out. So one way is thinking about the same form of the words, okay? So you can also think about motivation. Motivate can be replaced with the encourage as well, all right? Motivate can be replaced with the something else, or maybe guide him, all right? So the same verb form can be adopted, but you have to think about different words, okay, that are going to have similar meaning in the same form as well. That's going to be one way, okay? For example, let's say easy, okay? Easy is an adjective, and that can be replaced with the simple, isn't it? Simple is also an adjective, right? But they have got two different words anyway, okay? And they have got the same word form. However, they are two different equivalent words, okay?
Yeah.
Right. Let's jump onto the summary. Okay. So what we have to do, why we should not, copy and paste all the information from the case notes, why it is really necessary to summarize. Well, the first reason is that you should not include all the words from the case notes in your letter. The reason is that you may exceed the allowed word count of 180 to 200 words, and that's not good. If you write more than 220 words, they are going to be deducted, okay, from your letter, which means the examiners assume that you didn't include those information, although you have written down, okay? So that is one of the worst things, okay? So you may write over the word count, and that's not good for us, okay? That's the first thing. What's going to happen if you include an important point after 220 words? Let's say you are writing a letter to a dietitian, okay? And the patient is allergic to nuts, all right? Let's say the patient is allergic to nuts, and you are writing down this sentence after 220 words. What's going to happen? Well, you will be penalized like anything. Why? Because this is a very important information, because it can, put the patient at risk if it is not conveyed to the recipient, isn't it? Unfortunately, you have written down this information only after 220 words of your letter, which means it's not written down by you at all. That's how they feel. And they will penalize you under the overall task fulfillment. That is very bad, all right? And the second thing is, there will be a bunch of information, okay? They will provide, for example, low calorie, high protein, low cholesterol, low sodium diet. All right, let's say we have got like 5 words here, right? But your task is to interpret the case notes. Your task is not just to copy and paste the case notes there in the letter. No, not at all. So please never ever just copy and paste the information from the case notes. You have to interpret them as well. Well, let's say low cholesterol, low calorie, high protein, low sodium diet can be replaced with a balanced diet, isn't it? Is that clear with everyone? So they require you to interpret the information. Please, interpreting the information is going to be of great help for you to score higher than what you expect. If you need only C+ grade, for example, many students are aiming to go to UK or Ireland, right? For them, achieving C+ grade would be sufficient. Okay. However, I would strongly recommend them to aim at B grade, please. In the worst case, at least you should be able to end up at C+. All right. That is very, very important for us. Okay. Is everyone following me?
Yes, we are following.
Okay, great. Let's go to the third important note. Okay. You need to ensure that you understand the situation described in the case notes. Okay. What is meant by situation? Okay. What can we, get from these phrases? Well, you need to know one thing, whether the patient is in need of immediate response from the recipient or not. For example, in some situations, the patient requires immediate attention because of maybe a condition. Let's say the patient has got choking, or maybe the patient has been staying in a hospital. However, the patient is unable to, see any improvement. And as a result, there is an immediate admission to a different hospital is required for further investigation and assistance to the patient. If that's the case, it is an immediate situation. So you have to clearly state these phrases in your letter. Okay, you have to say immediate attention, immediately, prompt response, urgent admission. So you have to represent those kinds of things. Okay, that is the first and foremost reason why we have to understand the situation. And the second thing is, understanding the situation also is going to help you out to arrange the paragraphs in your letter as well. Because let us assume that there is a situation where there is an urgent admission required, okay, for the recipient, for the patient. In that case, you don't need to write down, the social or the medical background paragraphs right after the introduction paragraph, because they are going to be less important as far as this particular situation is concerned, which means these two paragraphs might have been to move down after the concluding paragraph and before the, before the sentences, you write, for example, thank you for accepting the care, or, should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. So before them, they need to be placed, okay? Because you need to clearly organize the paragraphs in such a way that these paragraphs are going to reflect the exact situation or exact criteria of the OET letter. Is this clear with everyone as well? So knowing the situation, understanding that is going to help you to tune the structure of your letter, because in some situations, we may need to rearrange the paragraphs. We may need to move some of the paragraphs down or above and so on. So accordingly, we have to work out. This is going to be the third important point. Is this clear with everyone?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the next one, the fourth one. You need to think about how best to organize your letter before you start writing. Okay, this is what we call planning. Planning is one of the underrated tasks by so many students who are appearing not only in the OET examination, but also in the IELTS and PT exams as well. And unfortunately, if you fail to plan, you are going to plan to fail. Is that clear with everyone? I mean, if you don't plan, the possibilities are very high that you may not be able to succeed in the exam. And that's not good for us, because there is a quote saying, well planning is half done. So if you plan what you're going to include in your letter and where you're going to include them, it is going to save your time a lot, and you don't need to strike out the information as well. So, some people may write something in the beginning and then they feel once they start proofreading, they may feel like, okay, this information may not be required, or this information may need to be moved up and down and so on, and that's not good for us. Okay, if you erase them, that's not good. It will make you more tensed as well during the exam, isn't it? And we do not have enough time to do all those things. Am I right? So please plan your letter well ahead. Do not straight away write down the letter after 5 minutes reading time. You have to have at least some time, let's say 3 to 5 minutes, okay, to plan your letter. All right, you need to know which information needs to go where. All right, that is really important as well. Is everyone following me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, let's go through the next one. Okay, as I mentioned previously, you will have the space provided. You will have the answer sheet, okay? All right, and then there will be some draft pages as well, all right, in the writing question paper. So you'll have two different things. One is the question paper and the other is going to be the answer sheet. So in the question paper, there will be some space, okay, that they provide for you to plan your letter. Okay, if you wish, you can do that, you can utilize that, all right, or you can follow the structure of the letter, which I'm going to describe in the future sessions. Okay, so you can follow them as well. So you can plan your letter according to what you think would be the best way. Okay, so a draft is not a compulsory one. Okay, I assume that many students try to prepare a draft of what they write down in the question paper itself, and then they will try to transform them into full sentences in the answer sheet. I personally do not recommend this because we do not have enough time, to transfer the answers from the question paper to the answer sheet, and that's not good for us, isn't it? So what I recommend everyone to do is to straight away, plan the letter on your question paper itself, and do not make any draft, please. Okay, do not make any draft. And whatever you are going to do on the question paper will not be seen by the examiners. They will have no clues regarding the information that you have written down on the question paper. They will only be able to access your responses, I mean your letters. Okay, they will see your letters, and then accordingly they will assess your letter and provide you the feedback. Okay, is that clear with everyone?
Yes.
Remember that 5 minutes are going to be golden. Okay, the first 5 minutes reading time are going to be really precious. Okay, it is precious. You have to utilize this time to the maximum extent so that you can also plan during the reading 5 minutes time as well. Okay, that can help you out a lot. And there is a wide variety of things that you have to focus on, okay, that you have to understand. The first and foremost thing is you need to know what your role is. I mean, what you are doing here in the letter question. Let's say, are you a registered nurse? Are you a mental and health nurse? Are you a medical and surgical ward nurse? Are you an ICU nurse? Okay, so in some case notes, they will mention the specialization as well. They will tell you where you are working, and you need to know your responsibilities accordingly anyway. So that's going to be the first thing. All right, that's going to be the first and the foremost criteria that you should know. Okay, and the second thing is going to be the recipient. Who is going to be your recipient? Okay, so for example, in some cases it could be another nurse. Okay, maybe a nurse supervisor, maybe a community nurse, maybe a nursing director, perhaps other occupations such as a doctor, an occupational therapist, or a physiotherapist, and so on. Okay, so we have got 12 different occupations. However, under each of them, there is going to be a wide variety of recipients as well, isn't it? Let's say under the nurses, you have got so many nurses as well, community nurses, and then social workers, and you can say, for example, ICU nurses and blah, 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 isn't it? So yes, you need to know all these things. You need to at least have the basic responsibilities of those occupations. Okay, you need to know them. Okay, so they are going to help a lot. because knowing those responsibilities can help you to identify whether a particular requirement is falling within the scope of the recipient or not. Is that clear with everyone?
Yes.
You also need to know what is the current situation of the patient, whether the patient is doing very well or the patient is suffering from some problems, or the patient is not coping well, but the patient has got some complications, or the patient's condition is really worse and he or she requires urgent admission, blah, blah, blah. So you need to know the current situation of the patient you are dealing with. Okay, so that needs to be clearly stated in your letter as well, please. Okay. So as I mentioned, if it is an urgent situation, if it is an emergency transfer, if it is an immediate discharge, or if it is something else, or if it is a non-urgent one, you have to work out around that, and you have to definitely, go through your letter according to that situation. Is that clear with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you need to know what would be the patient's main problems. What kinds of information do you need to convey to the reader so that the reader is able to provide the best care to the patient? All right, that's going to be the next thing. So what kinds of things do we need to include? For example, let's say there is a recipient who is a dietitian. All right. So when we need to write down a letter to your dietitian, we need to focus more on the responsibilities of a dietitian. For example, food habits, drinking habits, and so on, isn't it? So let us assume that if the patient is keen to eat, let's say, junk foods, all right, the snacks and junk foods, it is going to have more importance to the dietitian, am I right, than any other points, for example. Is that clear with everyone? And let's say the patient is not drinking enough water. Is that going to make more sense to the dietitian? Of course, 100%, isn't it?
Yeah.
So all those things are critical. So you need to be able to analyze all those things so that you can include them in your letter appropriately. Right. Okay, let's go through the next one, the supporting information. So it is also important for us to include additional information as well that can provide the reader a good overview on the patient's condition. Let's say sometimes they may mention that the patient has been doing something, all right, maybe a smoker, and you may also need to provide, for example, he smokes only occasionally or things like that. Okay, so you may need to include both of them. All right, so although he is a smoker, he smokes occasionally only. All right, not quite often. Okay, or you can simply say he is an occasional smoker. That's it. All right, that's going to be more than enough. Okay, so you need to provide the main ideas in the beginning of each paragraph, and then all the supporting ideas need to go through one by one after that. Is that clear with everyone?
Yes.
Organizing a paragraph is crucial because the reader is going to understand, or the reader is going to expect you to provide the main information in the beginning of a paragraph and then all the supporting information. Okay, I'm going to cover this criteria when we go through a session. All right, and I'll do it only for, especially for my students. Okay, all right, let's go ahead with the next one. What background information is useful to the reader? Well, if you are writing down a letter, let's say to a community nurse, all right, you need to imagine that the community nurse is going to provide both the medical as well as the community care, isn't it? I mean, social care, right? So you need to think, okay, when you think about the community nurse, including the social information, for example, the patient may not have any family member, okay, or the patient may be alone, maybe living alone. So these things are very critical for a community nurse. Is that clear with everyone? Because a community nurse is going to provide support to the patients from both the medical as well as community perspectives. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, I hope everyone is able to understand, and let's go through the next one. You need to also know what are the irrelevant information. You need to know what are the irrelevant notes. Okay, you should never ever include the irrelevant information in your letter. Okay, let's say you are writing down a letter to an occupational therapist, for example, and can we ask this occupational therapist to provide a balanced diet to the patient? Can we do that? Do you think an occupational therapist can prepare a diet and then provide it to the patient? Do you think so?
No.
No, it is out of their scope, isn't it?
Yeah.
They are legally entitled to perform only the tasks that they are registered for. They should never ever carry out any other tasks beyond their scope and knowledge. Okay. So you should not ask an occupational therapist to prepare, guidelines on the balanced diet and provide it to the patient. That's not good. Okay. You should definitely ignore the irrelevant case notes in your letter. You should never ever include them in your letter. Please do not do that. Is that clear with everyone?
Yep.
Perfect. Let's go through the next one. You need to explain the current situation at the start of the letter, perhaps an emergency situation. Let's say in the introduction paragraph, it's going to tell a whole thing, of a patient to the recipient, isn't it? So including 5 major criteria is going to definitely make a positive impression and convey, the whole story of the patient to the recipient. Okay. And I will be teaching this, in a separate session, which will be available only for my students anyway. All right. And I will teach you all those things. So it's going to clearly convey. You're going to put a tick mark against all those 5 criteria, and that's it. You will be able to, get really good scores as far as the letter is concerned. Okay. Right. Let's go to the next one. You need to use the names and the address given correctly. Remember that changing the names is not good. Okay. Writing down the incorrect spelling of the names for both the recipient as well as the patient is not good at all. Changing the address is not good as well. Okay, please don't do that. All right, don't commit any issues in relation to the inappropriate use of genders as well as the personal pronouns. For example, the patient is a male, but you started writing down she requires. Okay, maybe down maybe in one of the paragraphs, in your letter, you have been writing down she requires. Although the patient is a male, you started writing she requires blah blah blah. She will be, beneficial if you blah blah blah, and these things are not good. Changing the gender and the personal pronouns can damage your scores to the core. All right, they can damage like anything, because it shows that you do not have good attention to detail, when you have to provide services to a patient. Is that clear with you, TC?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, good. Let's go through the next one. When you write down a letter, you need to clearly convey the information regarding the names of the recipient and the address of the recipient, the date, as well as all the other information before you start actually writing down the salutation or the introduction paragraph of the letter. So before you can convey everything, this is the only thing you have to copy from the case notes. Okay, is that clear with everyone? So once you go to the writing task section, you will see the recipient's name, organization, designation, and their address. So you just need to copy those things and paste them in your letter. That's the only thing you should copy. All the other things should be rephrased only. Is that clear with everyone?
Yes.
Yes. And the patient's name needs to be copied as well anyway. So those are the basic things that you can copy. However, you should not copy the remaining things such as the keywords or the other information. Okay, so you shouldn't do that. Okay. Layout is going to be another important criteria as far as the OET writing is concerned. So please write neatly and legibly. All right, try to give a blank line between 2 sections of the letter to make it a positive experience, for the readers. All right, if you do not give a blank line between 2 sections or 2 paragraphs of the letter, it is going to make the people, yawn at your letter, okay? And that's not good for us, okay? They may feel really tired, to look at the information. Unfortunately, sometimes they may also miss the information as well, because they will have no clues when this paragraph starts and when it finishes, isn't it? That's not a good idea. So please try to write down neatly and clearly so that you should be able to make the positive impression about your writing. Okay, I hope everyone is able to understand so far. But if anyone has any questions, you can ask me, please. And we have got some don'ts as well, what we should not do. Okay, we should not include all the information from the case notes. As I previously mentioned, that's going to be one of the worst things. Remember that every writing question paper is going to have both the relevant as well as the irrelevant information, and it is your duty to ensure that you include only the relevant information in your letter. It is the first and the foremost criteria that you have to fulfill, especially if you're aiming at C+ grade and above. All right, so this is a must, and you should be in a position to understand what are the inappropriate details and what are the appropriate ones. Okay, never ever copy the chunks of words from the text, from the case notes to the letter. That's not a good idea. You need to always expand the abbreviations. You need to always try to write down everything in full. Okay, so say for example, if they mentioned the DOB in the case notes, it is highly recommended to expand it to date of birth. Okay, see, you need to always think that the letter is going to be 100% formal. Okay, so it means you have to write down everything in full form only. You cannot and you should not use the abbreviations. That's not good for us. Okay.
Okay.
And let's go to the next one. Write notes are numbered points. Okay, one of the common mistakes everyone commits is, for example, they try to write down 3-5 glasses of wine. Okay, and that hyphen, I mean the dash in between them, is not good. You should never ever do that. And this is exactly mentioned here. Okay, you should not write down the notes form, or you should not write down the abbreviations or the numbers with the hyphens in between. That's not good. You have to always expand it. I would strongly recommend my students to use the numbers in the word forms if those numbers are less than 10. So let's say, for instead of writing down 3, 2, TO and 5, it is highly recommended to write down THREE and then space and then 2 and then space and then 5, FIVE. So that's going to make a huge impact on your writing skills. Okay, it actually makes your letter look more attractive and more formal. Is that clear with everyone?
Yes.
Try not to write down the notes form. Why? Because you need to assume one thing, that these notes are taken by a nurse, okay, while she or he is listening to a conversation regarding the patient. So the nurse might have used the notes form like abbreviations or the SMS format and things like that. However, your task is to expand them, is to provide them in an acceptable manner in the form of a letter. Does anyone have any questions so far? So these 3 things are the major ones. Okay. All right. Tissy, do you have any questions so far?
I'm following at the moment.
Okay, good. Good. All right, let's go to the general strategies. Okay. During the examination, you need to have a spare pen and a pencil ready. So please carry out at least 2 pencils and 2 pens so that if you need, you can utilize them. You need to fill in the cover pages, for the task booklet as well as answer booklet correctly. You need to ensure that you fill in the details and then you sign them up as well. You have to confirm those details. You have to verify them. You have to verify your names, your occupation and the registration number and things like that. Okay. So that's really important. And you have to place your signature as well. Okay. Fill in your personal information on the answer sheet correctly. You have to do this as well. Okay. And you have to take a sample test under the test conditions beforehand, so you know what it feels like. Okay. this is one of the best recommendations for all the students, not only just mine, but also to the people, who are watching these videos. I would like to strongly advise you to practice writing down the letters within the time limit, reflecting the examination environment in your practice test, whether it is writing, speaking, listening, or reading, is going to give you more confidence, because you will feel that you have been already completing, the writing, speaking, listening, and reading tasks on time. And as a result, it's going to boost your moral confidence levels as well, which is critical for your students' mental ability during the examination. Is that clear with everyone?
Yes.
So please practice in the examination setting, please. Okay. And having good handwriting is essential. It doesn't mean that your handwriting must be really beautiful. It needs to be readable. Okay. So it means a lot to many students. For example, there are students who do not give enough space between two words, isn't it? They write them together. Or some people give really lots of spaces, between two words, and that's not good either, isn't it? And some people do not give a space between a comma and the next word. For example, they say, please note, and then comma. After note, let's say after note, they place a comma, and then they immediately start writing down the next word. I mean, he, without any gap between the comma and the next word. Remember that all these things can damage your score, and that's not good. Under the presentation and layout features, all these things are going to be taken into account, and as a result, you should not be shocked to see poor score in the OET writing subtest. Okay, so please try to avoid them. Okay, don't try to write down in such a manner that there is no space between two words, there is no space between a comma and the word after that. Okay, that's not good. You need to write clearly and legibly. Okay, that is really important. All right, one of the recommendations that has been provided by the official OET is that if you have written down some sentences in a paragraph and you would like to rearrange them, you can use the arrow symbols like this. Okay, for example, you can, if you want to place this one maybe before the previous sentence, you can just use an arrow. You can just draw it like this, and then you can put an arrow mark at the end, arrowhead. So that can be of great help. Okay, so you don't need to erase the whole thing, and you don't need to write it down from the beginning, because you are usually going to running out of time, isn't it? We do not have enough time, to be honest. Okay, all right, so writing down the letter is good, but proofreading it is much better, and it is the best, I would say. Proofreading is going to save at least 20 to 30 marks for you, which are usually the marks everyone is failing to achieve, isn't it? There are many people who are able to score only 290 or 280 in their writing, and they require another 20 marks or 10 marks, to reach C+ grade to go to UK or Ireland, right? If you do not do proofreading at the end of your letter, please, you need to ensure that you have to do it. Okay, that's not a good practice. Okay, if you do not proofread, that's not a good practice. That's going to reduce your chances dramatically. All right, and that's not good for us. So what we have to do is we have to spend at least a couple of minutes to proofread the whole letter. Okay, and ensure that you erase all the incorrect spelling, and then you replace them with the correct spelling and things like that. Okay, so proofreading is highly recommended to be done at least for 5 minutes. Okay, however, this time can be adjusted as well. See, some students are able to commit very less mistakes. For example, maybe 2-3 mistakes. Okay, for them even 1 to 2 minutes would be more than enough. However, there are students who commit mistakes in every sentence, isn't it? I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm just giving you, the information regarding the reality. Okay, and for them, they may need to adjust the time to perhaps 8 minutes for proofreading alone, or even 10 minutes. Okay, depending on the number of mistakes. Okay, so you need to adjust this time as well. You need to read the whole letter to understand whether it conveyed the information what you have intended in the beginning. Okay, so if it is an urgent letter, did you include it over there? Did you include any kinds of phrases that can explain immediacy? All right, did you include any kinds of words, any kinds of critical words in your letter? If you didn't do that, please add it if wherever possible. Okay, and then you need to make sure that the basic task requirements have been met in your letter as well. Okay, so particularly, the length of the words. Okay, we need to write only 180 to 200 words. Please do not write more than that. Okay, sometimes you may have so many relevant case notes and you already have tried to summarize most of the information. Okay, but still, if it exceeds 200 words and if it ends at, let's say, 205 words or 210 words, that is absolutely okay. All right, that is fine, as long as you have done a lot of things, in order to restrict it to 180 to 200 words only. Okay, you have taken a lot of efforts and they will give you the credits for that, so that's good. But do not unnecessarily provide the words in your letter that can drag the word length to more than 220 words. That's not good. That's not acceptable at all. Okay, that is going to be penalized heavily. Okay, remember this, please. Okay, and never ever write down the sentences in the note form. You have to always expand everything and then write down in the full sentences form only. Writing down the full sentences is critical. Please follow this. Okay, and the next one is going to be the appropriate letter format. Let's say in case of an urgency, or maybe an immediacy which is witnessed by the patient, you need to arrange the letter accordingly. Okay, and if the letter is a discharge letter, you have to clearly state that it is a discharge letter by using, let's say, upon discharge, or she is being discharged today, and blah blah blah. Okay, if it is a transfer letter, try to use the words like, she is being transferred today, or upon transfer, could you please blah blah blah. Okay, so those kinds of phrases can clearly state, for example, the letters and their types. Okay, so that's going to be of great help. Okay, and we also need to arrange the paragraphs in such a way that they reflect the situation of the patient. Okay, that's going to be another thing. Are you following me, Tissy and others?
Yeah, I'm following.
Okay, good. You need to check for any simple grammar and spelling errors that you may have made. Okay, you have to have a look at each sentence, okay, and see whether you have used the nouns, articles, verbs, prepositions, punctuation marks, and so on correctly or not. Sometimes we may misspell the words as well. Okay, so you gotta have a look at them. Okay, and you have to ensure that you spell the words correctly. Okay, for instance, let's say there are a couple of things where people make mistake. Okay, one of them is ADVISE. Okay, when you write down ADVISE, it's going to act as a verb. Okay, it's going to act as a verb. I mean, she has been advised not to take maybe blah blah blah, junk foods, for example. All right, so in this case, advised, okay, ADVISED is going to act as a verb. However, many people misuse the word. Okay, they use a different word in the noun form. For example, they say she has been advised, ADVICED. Unfortunately, ADVICED is not a word at all. There's no word as such in English. Okay, that's going to be a recommendation by you, maybe for the Oxford dictionary, to be included. That's going to be a new word, brand new word by you. Okay, but that's not the case. Okay, so ADVICE is a noun, so we should not say she has been advised. In that case, we shouldn't write ADVICED, not to. That is wrong. So that's one of the worst things we can commit. Okay, that's not good. You should not use a noun in the form of a verb or the other way around. That's not good. Okay, right. If the page is messy, so you have written on the letter, unfortunately, you didn't write them down in a legible manner. So what we can do, one way can at least make it a bit better is by using the clear marks. You can use the arrows, you can use the numbers, and you can tell them, the sequence. Okay, you can tell them that this is going to be the first sentence, this is going to be the second sentence, this is going to be the third sentence, and so on, so that at least you can reduce the damage. Okay, although it doesn't look good, it is definitely helpful for you to at least reduce the whole damage. Okay, you're going to be damaged less, when compared with that of not showing those arrows in regards to the order of the sentences in your letter. Is that clear with everyone? So please utilize them. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, if you have got a sentence, okay, you have got a sentence, but part of the sentence is not correct, you can cross it out, please. Okay, if you don't need, let's say maybe this part, okay, this part is not correct. Okay, so this is an irrelevant information. Okay, so I have included it by mistake, okay, in this sentence. What do I have to do? You just strike it out, just draw, a horizontal line like this. Okay, that's it. It can actually take it, from there. Okay, all right. However, trying to avoid all these things, okay, by planning really very well, can save your time and can have a really good impression in the reader's mind, and you will be able to get more than 350 out of 500 in the OET writing subtest. Does anyone have any queries? All right, this is how the writing test booklet, in other words, the question paper looks like. Okay, so you're gonna see, the OET one over there on the top, and then you will see the candidate number, last name, first name, middle name, profession, venue, and the test date. So you have to verify all these details. Okay, and then you will also see the passport photo as well. Your passport photo will be fixed here. All right, and then what you're going to do is, these are the declarations. So by signing this, you agree to everything. So once you verify all these details, okay, all right, you're going to sign, you're going to place your signature here in this space provided here, candidate signature. Okay, here only you have to place it. All right, and please understand that these are the instructions for you. You must write your answer for the writing subtest in the writing answer booklet only, not in the test booklet, not in the question booklet. Okay, all right, and you must not remove the OET material from the test room. You have to hand over all these materials to the invigilators during the examination. Is that clear with you to see? Okay, so this is the cover page. This is the first page you'll get. All right, and they don't allow you to open it until they ask you to do so. Okay, so you should not open the pages inside the booklet. Okay, is that clear with you?
Okay.
Yep. Now let's go to the next page. So this is going to be the next page where you will see the occupational English test, and then they will also show you the writing subtest and then the occupation. So you need to cross verify this as well. Sometimes you may be able to get a different question paper, right? You are a nurse, but you get the question paper for a physiotherapist. I mean, usually it doesn't happen, but sometimes, it's better to verify that as well quickly. And then this is what you see after that. Time allowed, reading time, 5 minutes, writing time, 40 minutes. Okay. That's amazing. At least they're giving 5 minutes for us. It's really good for us. Okay, you need to read the case notes below and complete the writing task which follows. Okay, you are going to get now the patient's information, which is going to be A to Z of the patient's information. Okay, and they will also state who you are. See this one, you are a registered nurse working at Newtown Community Hospital. Your patient, Miss Mary Bell, is being discharged today. All right, and that's the patient's name, Miss Mary Bell, and they also mentioned a miss in the bracket. So you will get a wide variety of information of the patient. I mean, the patient's name, the patient's age, the patient's marital status, the patient's family, the patient's admission first time, and then the discharge plan, and then the diagnosis, and then the medical history, medications, social and family background, nursing management and progress during hospitalization, and then the discharge plan. Is that clear with you? So it's going to be a whole bunch of information regarding the patient. And as I previously mentioned, okay, these case notes should have two different kinds of information. One is the relevant information to the reader, and the other is the irrelevant information to the reader. Is that clear with you to see?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So we are going to include only the relevant case notes in your letter, and that's how you're going to get the maximum score that you require to become a registered nurse in Australia. Okay. Right. Okay, I'll teach you all these things anyway later on. Okay, let's scroll down to the writing task. Can you see this writing task?
Yeah.
So this is the one which contains, the information regarding the recipient. It tells you who the recipient is, where the recipient is working, and what kinds of information to be included in your letter. If you have a look at it, see this one, using the information given in the case notes, write a letter of discharge to Miss Jane Riddick. They have clearly stated that it's going to be a discharge letter, and they have clearly stated that this is the recipient who's going to continue providing the care. Okay.
Yeah.
And the recipient is a community nurse, and where this recipient is working, it is a Newtown Community Health Center. And what do we need to include? The patient's condition and the patient's medical as well as social needs. Awesome. And this is the address of the recipient. Okay. So you have to just copy and paste. Remember that only the information that is mentioned in the writing task is grammatically accurate, which means you can copy and paste them in your letter. Is that clear with you?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So in your answer, expand the relevant notes into complete sentences. Do not use note form, use letter format. The body of the letter should be approximately 180 to 200 words. That's it. So this is how you're going to get the case notes of a patient. Usually the case notes of a patient are going to be for 2 pages. Okay. Sometimes it could be 1 page as well, but that's going to be very rare. That comes once in a blue moon only. Okay. But usually you will get the case notes for at least 2 pages. Sometimes it could be only 1.5 pages. Sometimes it could be full 2 pages as well, So you need to write down a wide variety of letters. Okay. All right. To, some people, for example, the community nurses, maybe for 1 letter, and then maybe you can take an aged care nurse for the other one, and then the doctors, and then the nurse, maybe other nurses, and blah, blah, blah. Also other occupations as well. So you have to do all those kinds of things. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So does anyone have any questions in relation to the question paper for the OET writing subtest? Is that clear with you, Jaipriya, Amruta, Shilpa, Preeti?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay, let's go through the next one. So once you get this one, once you go across, you're going to get the answer booklet. This is where you have to register your response. This is where you have to write down the letter. Okay. And again, you will see the cover page here. You will see the candidate number, last name, first name, middle name, profession, venue, test date, and all these things, along with your photo affixed here. Okay. So which means you got to verify them, and then you have to, put your signature here. Is that clear with everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And then they will also give you some kinds of instructions as well. So time allowed is 5 minutes for reading time, 40 minutes for writing time. Remember that during the first 5 minutes time, you may study the writing test, task, and notes. You must not write, highlight, underline, or make any notes. You should not do this. You're not allowed to do that. Is that clear with you? If you do so, you're going to break the examination rules, and that's not good. Right. So in the first 5 minutes, you should never ever do anything such as writing, highlighting, underlining, or making any notes. That's not good at all. Okay. And then you will get 40 minutes writing time where you can play around. You can do whatever you want. Okay. All right, in the 40 minutes. Okay, good. You can also use the back page, for notes and rough draft only. Notes and rough draft will not be marked, so they will not look at them. Okay, they will not look at them. They will only look at the actual response that you have made in the space provided. Okay, you need to write your answer clearly on page number 1 and 2 as well. So if you write down page number 3, it's going to be the draft only, unfortunately, and that won't be marked at all. So never commit any costly mistakes by writing down the letter in the draft page fully, and then you realize, oh my God, I have done it incorrectly, and you have to erase them. That's not good at all. Okay, that's not good. Please. And please cross out anything that you do not want the examiner to consider. One of the good things about the writing subtest here in OET letter is that you can cross out, okay, whatever the part of the information or whatever the full sentence you do not want to be assessed, you can cross them out, okay? But crossing out many sentences within a letter doesn't look good, isn't it? So it needs to be avoided, I would say. All right, but in some cases, if you are already written down a grammatically incorrect sentence and you are 100% confident about that, please erase it, please cross it out, please strike it out. That's okay. All right, you must write your answer for the writing subtest in the answer booklet using a pen or pencil. Although they have highlighted here that you can use either a pen or a pencil, my strong recommendation is to use a pencil because you can erase them. You can erase them. You can just play around, with the pencil. If you cross out your letter using a pen, it doesn't look really good, isn't it? So it's going to give a negative impression about your writing. So it is highly recommended to use a pencil instead of a pen. And you must not remove the OET material from the test room as well. That's going to be another recommendation. I mean, not recommendation, it is a requirement. Anyway, you can't, you can't run away, with the question paper and the answer sheet. Okay, you should not. All right. Okay, so this is going to be the cover page. Okay, so I'm giving you these information because you can get to know that in advance. Okay, and let's go to the answer sheet. This is how the answer sheet is going to look like. And they clearly state, please record your answer on this page. So you have got 2 pages, page number 1 and page number 2. Usually these 2 pages are sufficient, for someone to write down the letter. All right. But if you need additional paper, you can also ask. But usually it should be all right because the answer sheet is going to be really big and it's going to have really longer sentences and lines, which means, you can finish it, some people finish it within 1 page itself, so you should be all right. And as I previously mentioned, it is highly recommended to print out this page, okay, all right, with you, and then write down the practice letters on the, the page only, on the sample page only, because it is going to reflect exact environment. As a result, you will feel more confident during the actual OET writing subtest. Is that clear with everyone? So it's going to have the lines like this, okay, only you have to write on the lines, okay, not on the draft pages. Okay, this is going to be the page 2, and then look at the next one. So this is going to be the draft paper. Okay, it's only the draft. All right, then do not write down the answers, anything here. If you do write, they won't be marked, unfortunately. Okay, so remember this. That's going to be the first draft. All right. Okay, so you can write down something, you can think, what are the relevant case notes, but I would certainly recommend you not to do anything here because I'll give you the strategies, with which you can work out on the question paper itself. Okay. I hope everyone understands this, but does anyone have any questions so far? Tissy, do you have any questions?
So far so good.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah, you are brilliant.
Yeah.
All right, and Amrita, do you have any questions?
Sir, that arrow mark and numbers about that is any weekend's problem.
No, I mean, see, it is highly recommended not to use, but again, if you feel that you can use arrow marks, which can improve the score, which can improve the flow of information, please do it. Okay, it doesn't, they don't deduct marks much. Okay, for that, they don't deduct marks. All right.
Okay, sir.
But it is highly recommended to plan well in advance so that you don't need to do that. Okay, do you know what I mean? But if you proofread and you identified that there is an issue, okay, with your sentence structures or the priority of the sentences, then you can do that. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Do you have any other questions, Amrita?
No, sir.
All right, perfect. Jaipriya, do you have any questions? Preeti?
No, sir.
Do you have any questions, Preeti? Thank you.
Sir.
Yeah, is it all good? Thank you. All right, that's the end of the session now. I wish you all good luck with your practice, and we'll catch up, as soon as possible. Please, have an eye on our WhatsApp group so that you can get the notifications regarding the sessions. And the same login details are going to be used as well. So as soon as you get the notifications in our WhatsApp group, we can join. All right. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And Tissy, welcome to our group. Welcome to
Thank
the
you
world
very
of
much.
OET.
Thank you.
All right,
I've
thank
gained
you.
a lot.
Yeah, of
I'll
course.
start practicing now.
Of course, yeah, of course. And it's not going to be the easy one, however, not the hard one as well. So with the correct guidance, you should be able to pass. Okay.
Yeah. Thank
So
you. Thank you.
we just started only, right? So don't worry too much. We'll go through one by one. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.